Hi everyone, welcome back. Today I'm gonna do another bacon yap sesh. If you're new here, hi, I'm Lauren. I'm a 32 single MFA student in New York, and I wanted to talk a little bit about my egg freezing process today and how that all went for me. Since I have some relatively ripe bananas, that I would make a little baking video today and chat with you guys about this topic. None of this is really going to be about the medical process at all. I'm not a doctor. I am not sure how all that scientific stuff happens, but I did go through this whole process when I was 29, and I think there was a lot of emotional stuff that happened as well that took me by surprise. So I thought it'd be interesting to share some of that story with you guys. So today we're gonna be making banana bread, a high protein banana bread, and it's gluten-free because my sister's gluten-free. So we're gonna start. I'm gonna preheat the oven first. This is such a New York thing, but maybe it's not a New York thing. I have no space to keep anything, so I keep half of my pans and stuff just in my oven because I don't know where else to put them. Bake 356. I'm training for my half marathon and it's the last week before it. And I had my last long run yesterday. And let me tell you, this training process has taught me so much about myself and what my body is able to go through, but also that I can't rush through any of that process either. I am really grateful that I've picked up running as a sport. I've met some really incredible people through it and just very disciplined, wholesome, good-hearted people who just want to do better for themselves. So I'm really grateful for this community that I found. But this matcha is my new favorite matcha powder. I think they're in Brooklyn. It's called Drink Nectarine. You just love that sound. Anyways, I just bought this loaf pan recently. Here, let's see, where is it? I just wanted to say, if you're considering egg freezing, I would 100% go do it. I was very nervous when I went through the whole process, but I think afterwards, even though I know it's not a guarantee and I know it's not an insurance plan, it was very insightful for me to go through that. It brought forth a lot of the fears and thoughts you have about your own fertility as a woman, which you don't really tend to think about in your earlier 20s. You just assume everything is fine. So for me, even though everything was fine, and thank God, knock wood, there was nothing crazy that happened. It just brought up a lot more conversations about fertility than I had anticipated. So if you're considering it or if you're curious what it's like to go through it, I hope this video brings you any sort of comfort and know that you're not alone in any of that process. And it is emotional for a lot of people. It's not just as simple as going to the doctor and getting something done. If you guys are chronic YouTubers, you know that Claire Saffitz always does this so beautifully, and every time I watch her do it, I'm like, wow. I think she always leaves a bit of like overhang like this so that it can come out like this. I don't know if you guys can see that. All right, okay, I'm gonna put that to the side. Mash your bananas in a large mixing bowl. So I think everybody who freezes their eggs has a very personal reason for doing it. Fertility is a very sensitive topic for some people, and I'm cautious to put out that reminder that take care of your own body and make sure you are aware and informed about your own body as well. So go see your doctors, go see your OBGYNs, and understand more about yourself before you think about doing any big process or procedure like this. I think a lot of people make light of the whole egg freezing thing. Even when I did it, I was just hearing all my friends doing it, and I just thought, okay, I guess it's something I have to do, like getting braces. But nobody really warned me about the emotional part of it prior, and I just went into it without really thinking about what it meant for me. Now that I'm out of it, I do think it's important to look back a bit and see why some of those emotions were brought up for me. Okay, so 2 medium overripe bananas. 1, 2. So I think a lot of women in their 30s or even late 20s start thinking about freezing their eggs, especially those of us who are single or don't have a partner just yet. It is a topic that comes up in a lot of my conversations with my friends. Even if you're married, just don't want a kid yet and you want to focus on your career, because as much as people like to say women can have everything, you can have everything, but just not at the same time. And so a lot of my friends who are very focused on their careers and they're about to get huge promotions, they don't feel ready to have a kid, even if they have a partner, a very stable, happy marriage. So that whole process and the reason why people do it is very personal. But for me, personally, I did it because when I was 29, I had just moved to New York and I was single and didn't foresee myself dating anyone very seriously very soon. And I have always wanted to be a mom, and I knew that having a child was very important to me. I got a bit worried that maybe if I waited around until I found a partner And then even by then, when you do find a partner, you should date them for a year before you even get engaged and then married. And then when I counted backwards from the time that I would be able to have a kid, I would be in my late 30s, and I didn't feel comfortable with that. So that's the reason I did it. And I wanted to make sure that I had some options, even if I end up meeting my partner later in life. I had a lot of friends who got married really young. A lot of my friends got married before they were 30 and then had kids in their early 30s. And I think watching them, there was a lot of jealous feelings coming up and a lot of, oh, when is it my turn kind of feelings coming up. And those are only natural. Even though at the time I did feel like I was running out of time, now that I'm actually in my 30s, I don't feel like I'm running out of time. In fact, some days I am very grateful that I'm still single because there was so much growing I had to do in between that time, even from 29 to 32. I am a completely different person than I was back then. And I can't imagine what it would have been like if I had gotten married between that time. And I don't think I would have grown into the person that I am currently and be able to be so passionate about the things that I'm doing and develop this confidence that I have now. Okay, so I've mashed the bananas. Now, what do I have to do? Add Greek yogurt, 6 ounces of plain Greek yogurt. I felt like there was a lot of pressure for me to have my whole life figured out and to have kids and get married and do the whole thing. And when it didn't seem like a partner was coming into the picture anytime soon, I thought, what can I do to almost take control of the situation that I have currently, even though I wasn't really in control of whether or not I was gonna find a partner. At least I could control this one part of it. I don't know if that's actually necessarily true, but I think at the time, that's what I was focused on, that it felt like a sense of control. And then add in 1/3 cup of honey. Okay. Instead of honey, I think I'm gonna do maple syrup. Is maple syrup better for you? I don't know. So when I first started the whole IVF process, I went to a consultation first. And when I got there, I asked all the questions I wanted to ask. And most of my fears in the initial part of it was about the injections and how painful it was gonna be and whether or not I was gonna be able to do them on myself because I am terrified of needles. But the other fear that I didn't think about was the financial part of it. I knew it was going to be expensive, but I didn't think about the emotional part of that financial stress because when I got the numbers back, I didn't think this emotional part would come up where I thought, wow, this procedure is so expensive. How dare I almost allow myself to even think about having children? Having this procedure done was already such a financial stress on me. Having a child is maybe 100, 200 times more expensive than this procedure, maybe 500 times more. And the fact that I was doing this procedure to soothe some part of me, but it almost raised a lot of other anxieties in me. Even if I don't find a partner and I want to have a child, would I be able to afford that? I don't think I quite reconciled with the fact that there's a possibility that I would have to do it on my own in the future if it really came down to it. I kept thinking in my head, okay, if I want to be an empowered, independent woman, am I capable of raising a child on my own? Going through this whole IVF process on my own was so emotionally taxing that it scared me from the whole idea, of course. But I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. Now we add 2 eggs. Maybe it is part of just the fear of being alone forever that scared me more, but it made that fear very real when it stares at you in the face with science and numbers and a very real potential that even if I freeze these eggs, I might not ever get to use them. Oh, vanilla extract. Let's see, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Oop. I think what a lot of people don't tell you when you're doing the egg freezing process as a single woman is that you're doing all of it on your own. You are doing the shots on your own. You're going to the doctor on your own. And a lot of people who do IVF or egg freezing, if they are in a partnership, at least they have someone to lean on a little bit. Okay, mix all of that. Oh, this looks very goopy. I don't know how I feel about this. And so beyond the emotional initial part of it with the financial bit, the other part that also terrifies most people is the actual injections part of it. So I say this the same way that I say about running. If I can do it, anybody can do it. If I can go through giving myself shots every single night for a week and a half on my own as someone who can't even look. Normally when I get injections and flu injections, I can't look at it because I'm so terrified of needles. I'm so scared of bees because I just can't imagine being stung. But if I can do it, genuinely anybody can. And in the beginning, thankfully, I asked the doctor if a nurse could come do it for me. And I originally was planning to have the nurse come every single night to help me do the shots. But even the nurse told me, Lauren, I'm not going to do that because that is a huge waste of time. So I said, okay, fine. So a month before your period, you go in for a consultation. You figure out the timing of when you're going to start doing the hormone shots. And so before that, I think you order all of it and the doctors will tell you how much to order. You order a bunch of it, you put them all in your fridge. And then I think on the second day of your period, you go to the doctor and you get your blood drawn. And that's when you start doing your shots. And so I would have to go to the clinic every morning at around 6:37 a.m., which was a trek because the clinic I went to was uptown and I live downtown. So every morning I would have to trek to the clinic, get my blood drawn, and then when you get your blood drawn, you just go about your day. And around 3 or 4, the nurses will text you how much of the medication you need. So the way you do it is, I'm gonna put some videos and footage here of me doing the shots. It's basically like chemistry a little bit. You have to mix the medication back and forth and you do the shots. The nurse taught me a trick where she told me to ice the area and you just have to ice it for about 10 minutes prior. And then the shot feels like nothing. I was so terrified in the beginning, absolutely terrified. But when I actually got to doing it on my own, I was able to do it. Towards the end, I was able to do it just one-handed. It was no biggie, not at all. But it was a whole process and you have to do either side. So what she told me was, okay, start on this side and the next day you go on the other side so that it avoids bruising. The shots are very small and you have to do, I think, 3 different types of injections. So you go back to the clinic every single day and then every 4 days or something, I would actually see the GYN and would look at a scan of what was happening and how the follicles are growing and how big they were getting. And I think the whole injection shot takes about 8 to 15 days. So mine was 9 days, thankfully. And so the day before, they will call you and they will let you know when you're ready to do the trigger shot. And when you do the trigger shot, it's this big needle and you typically do the trigger shot the night before or 2 nights before. And then what the trigger shot does is it stops the whole process of the eggs growing and then it releases them so that you can start doing the egg retrieval. So this whole week, essentially, I have to say my hormones were going crazy. I was so emotional one day and the next day I was so bloated. I was getting sick a little bit as well because I think my immunity was low. I was just all over the place. I remember going to school and my friends were just so confused why I was just like a hot mess, essentially. A huge reason that this happened was also because I couldn't work out at all. So during this time, my doctor told me that I shouldn't be moving around too much. You shouldn't be jumping, you shouldn't be running, you shouldn't be doing yoga or twisting, any movements that could cause too much movement in the area. So I basically just had to lay on the couch for a week. And normally I would have said, yeah, that's ideal and so great. Like all I have to do is watch TV. But I think I didn't quite anticipate how emotional I would get during this period because I really did feel like I was alone, unfortunately. You have to do the shots every single night at the same time. So even if you're out to dinner or you have a meeting, I had to schedule my whole life around this 1 hour because you have a 1 hour window to do that shot at the exact same time at night. Okay, 1.5 cups of oat flour. I hope this tastes good. I'm supposed to put half a cup of vanilla protein powder, but I only have this cacao one and it's fava protein. I don't know if anyone else here has gone through this, but I started using whey protein isolate recently and it's making me break out like crazy. The whole bottom of my chin is breaking out in acne. In pimples. But if anyone else has gone through this of breaking out from protein powder, what do you do? 1 teaspoon of cinnamon and 1 teaspoon of baking soda. All right, so anyways, what was I saying? I can't remember what I was saying. Okay, so after I did my trigger shot on the day of the actual retrieval, I did go to the hospital alone in the morning. I think it was at 9 a.m. Thankfully, the nurses were all really great. I changed into a hospital gown and just sat there and waited for my appointment. I was in my head a lot. I think just that process of oh my gosh, I'm about to go under anesthesia, because they put you under completely to go through the whole retrieval. I've never had to do surgery ever in my life. I'm very blessed with that. The whole process was very scary to have to walk into a surgical room and all these people were staring at me. Thankfully, I think it only lasted 15 minutes, but it was like the best nap of my life. I just remember I closed my eyes, counted back from 10, and the next thing I knew, I was in the recovery room again, and my sister-in-law was already there. Chocolate chips, yes, I'm definitely adding chocolate chips. So after the retrieval, I was free to go that morning. So my sister-in-law dropped me off at home, got me some pain relievers. I think I got just some Advil, and then I just rested for the rest of the day and didn't really do much. I think I just watched TV. After the whole procedure, I was obviously very, very relieved. I think I was just relieved that I was done. It went well. People also don't mention how emotionally taxing it is afterwards. So for the month after, you're technically really not supposed to be doing any vigorous exercise as well. The hormones afterwards were tough to rebalance. For the next couple months, my hormones were out of whack completely. My cortisol levels are crazy. I was just very stressed half the time, and it didn't help my depression. I was in my head a lot more, and I also had a lot of acne for a couple months. I tried everything to get rid of it, but my body was just trying to get back to a balanced state again. And I couldn't do yoga, I couldn't work out, I couldn't really walk much. And I was really grateful to have girlfriends come and help me in that moment. Looking back, I am really proud of myself that I went through it. Honestly, I do wish I had maybe put a little bit more thought into it prior to going, because people talk about it so casually, just getting your eggs frozen, because it is a fairly easy process. However, I do think there needs to be more conversation about being emotionally prepared to do something like this on your own, and even talking with your friends about it, right? Like, everybody has different priorities, everybody has different intentions. Not everybody wants kids, and some people are not able to have children. It's all stuff that I think doesn't get talked about enough openly, and I've heard so many friends go through really tough things in their own fertility journeys, and there aren't enough support groups, and people don't talk about it enough. It's somehow a very taboo topic, even though half of the world's population goes through this at one point in their life or another. And it's just not a guarantee. I think some people are a little insensitive when they talk about it. They'll say stuff like, oh, you know, when you're 28, oh, you're not getting any younger, things like that. Comments like that that seem very flippant to people can really be damaging and can really hurt a lot of people. However, I think you have to be more sensitive to the people around you when you're talking about fertility and talking about life plans and life goals and life phases, because this is a topic that can bring up a lot of hurt for a lot of people, because you never know what people are going through. I am very proud of myself that I did it, even though it is not a guarantee, because even the nurse who came to work with me, she told me that you have to think about it like, if you freeze 10 eggs, maybe one of them will have a chance of being a healthy child. I don't know the science on that, so don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure even the process of thawing the eggs, a lot of them won't be viable anymore, and then even after you turn those eggs into embryos, those might not be viable or healthy eggs in the end anyway. Even though you don't want 10 eggs that are going to be 10 embryos, unless you want 10 kids, that's all for you, but I don't want 10 kids, so I don't need that many eggs. However, even if it's not a guarantee, I think it gave me a little bit of relief to think I did what I could with the science and the technology that was given to me at the time that I had it. And I am so grateful that we are in this time and age where we're able to do this. I have the option to do this. And imagine if we didn't have the option to do this. I would be considered an old maid at this point. But there are so many women who are still single in their 30s, even 40s, maybe 50s. And to have the choice to do this at a younger age when you can have a little bit of control over your biology in this sense is a huge blessing and something to be grateful for. Even though I do get scared sometimes and I have those fears of, am I going to find a partner? Am I going to end up with somebody? The longer I'm not with someone, the more I learn to love myself, honestly. And the more I see how much of my life I can build for me. And so, will I have a partner? I don't know. I would love one. I would love to share my life with somebody. But even if I don't, I know that I've done what I can to take control of what I can in the time that I could do it. Anyway, okay, so I think here's what it looks like for now, prior. Let me add some chocolate chips at the top. Just sprinkle some on top. Okay, I think that looks good. And then, so you bake it for 40 to 50 minutes. All right, I'm gonna start cleaning here, and then when it's done, I will come back and show you guys the final results. Okay, while we were waiting, I did go on Instagram and put out a question box to see what you guys were curious about. And so I thought I would answer some of these while I'm waiting for the banana bread to be done. So let's see. What are your tips to get into running for beginners? I started running just 7-8 months ago, really not that long. And the way I started was genuinely just by walking. I started last year, 2024, with the goal of walking 10,000 steps a day. And that takes about an hour and a half of walking to get to that many steps. And I just didn't want to spend that much time walking, essentially. So at one point when I was walking on my path, I decided to challenge myself to run little sections of it. So for example, I would run from this lamppost to this lamppost. Really not that long distance at all, but I just started like that, and I would just do run walks. I remember my first full official run, which was maybe only 2 miles, but I remember texting my sister being so excited that I ran the entire time and I didn't stop to walk. So that whole process took about 9 months to even get to the point where I even ran a full 2 miles just fully without stopping. And even now, I have days when I feel like I just have to stop because I'm so tired. So I think running is one of those things where you have good days, you have bad days, and I've learned a lot through the process of training myself to push when I need to push and not push when I know my body just really needs to rest. Running is a great sport. Like I said before, if I can do it, anyone can do it. So I would say start off by walking first. You really underestimate how much walking does for you. How did I get into art and painting, and what is my favorite part about it? I pretty much have done art my entire life. I've always been very crafty. I love doing little crafts and journaling. I've picked up calligraphy. I've done cake making. I'll put some photos of my cakes here because I really am very proud of them. I had a phase in my life where I made a lot of cakes, and I mostly made my cakes for my friends. I love making very thoughtful gifts for people. Gifting thoughtful gifts is one of my love languages, so for sure, I used to love hand making gifts for my friends, and I would knit scarves or make really elaborate cakes for them. So I've always been very crafty. And then during COVID, when I was going through my last breakup, my best friend was so sweet, and she actually asked me, hey, I think it's time for you to get out of bed essentially and stop being in this pity party. So she brought me along to a paint and sip class, and I hadn't painted since college, and it had been maybe 5-6 years since I had painted, and I never even thought about painting again. But since my friend brought me to this paint and sip class, I was like, why not? I'll do it. And instead of following what the painting class was supposed to be, I just painted whatever I wanted to paint, and it felt very freeing in that moment. So that's when I remembered, hey, I kind of do love this. I love how free it can be, and you can just kind of do whatever you want. And it's very intuitive, the whole process. So I think that was sometime during COVID. And then after that, I decided to go full force into just making art, because I think a lot of my paintings really spoke to people, and I really enjoyed that whole process of making something and being able to share that very inner deep part of myself with somebody. Let's see. When doing something new, do you feel you focus more on the journey or on the outcome? I'm someone who loves to do new stuff all the time. Like, I get bored very easily. I'm a very quick learner, so I'm able to pick up a hobby and be relatively good at it pretty fast. But I am really focused on the end goal. I'm very good at following directions. So when I'm able to just make something that I imagine, I envision, I'll be like, wow, cool, awesome. That's the end goal. I do forget about the process of slowing down and asking myself maybe why I wanted to pick up something new and what is it about that particular hobby or particular language or particular thing that I want to learn. What is it about that thing that I'm so drawn to? You don't have to reflect on these things all the time, obviously, but I don't focus on the process as much as I should. Running has helped me a lot in that regard of needing to focus on the process, because you cannot jump to the outcome. No matter how fast you push yourself to run one time, if you get injured, then you can't run anymore. And that kind of defeats the whole purpose of the whole reason why you started. I think working out and running and fitness has really helped me slow all the way down and be very cognizant of what my process is every single step of the way. Let's see. How do you find dates without being on apps? I don't know. I am still trying to figure that one out myself. I wanted to make a goal in April to go on a date with somebody I thought was attractive. It is now April 20th, and I have not found anybody to go on a date with. I have no idea. I assume it's just from going out to events and things that you're interested in, maybe run clubs or museum, galas, dinners, all these different things that are around that are offered. Because when you go to something that you're already interested in, chances are you'll meet someone there who's also interested in that one topic. However, I haven't yet met anybody from those events. I mostly make friends at those events, so I don't know. If anybody else has the answer, let us know in the comments, because I really have no answer to that. Let's see. Okay, so my SD card died for a little bit there, and it said it was full. This is a story for people who have been here for a while. I had to actually format my SD card on purpose this time. Last time I did it accidentally and I lost all my footage and I just didn't know what to do. I know this is like a complete aside and essentially unimportant. Anyways, I have just been sitting here journaling a little bit, but I have a last couple questions that I thought I would get to. You know what? I'm not even going to merit any of it with responses, but sometimes people say the most unhinged things on my comment section, and I know this is social media, you can say whatever you want to say, but the people who do it just out of spite and just out of hurt people is just, you need to find a better hobby. That's all. Okay, I think this is the last question I'm going to get to because the banana bread is done. It looks a little sus, not gonna lie. This last question, what is a comfort reminder you give yourself more times than most? So this is a great question, because I have been using my social media as a way to give myself reminders and also other people reminders. So a lot of times when you go on my Instagram and you see me write positive comments, positive affirmations and all those things, a lot of times those are for me. And I know that if I need it, somebody else needs it too. One that always gets me through some of the more confusing parts of life, and especially when I'm a bit down on myself, is truly just have faith. Have faith. Things are going to work out and nothing that is meant for you will pass you by. I know that is a little bit airy-fairy for some people, but that really helps ground me, at least in the moment, to just know that I am doing my best in the best way I know how. So that really is enough. Another reminder I always give myself is breathe. You belong and deserve to be loved just as you are. I need that reminder a lot. I am often doubting myself and my ability to love and whether or not I deserve to be loved. And I think a lot of people go through that too. There's a lot of wounds there from not thinking that I'm enough and that I don't belong. So I need to remind myself to breathe, first of all, because a lot of times when the anxiety sits, it sits all up in your shoulders and your chest and in that area, and it just constricts. So when you breathe, you let it go and you can give yourself space to feel all the feelings again, holistically in your body. And I also always say to myself, you are a star. And I say that because even though I'm not necessarily saying this in a religious sense, if the creator, God, whoever he may be, created the stars and the sun and the moon, and I think this is a Bible verse, but if he created the stars and the moon and the sun and trees and all living things, I am also a product of said creation in nature, like trees and the sun. You don't ask them to do more than they are. You don't ask trees to be more than they are. They just are. There's something very grounding and loving in that reminds me that me as a human being, yes, my thoughts can be complex sometimes, and I can fall into pockets of anxiety and overthinking. But when I remind myself that I am a product of creation just as much as a tree is, and that we are all living beings, and that we all deserve to be loved and appreciated and enjoyed just as we are, and that we can just be, there is a very simple beauty in that grounds me. So I tell myself that you are a star because I want to believe that I am a star and that I can shine as bright as a star, or I can just exist, and that existence is really enough. Yeah, that's all. Anyways, I think that is a pretty good question to end on for now. If you are still here listening to all of that yapping, congratulations, you've made it to the end. But also, Thank you for being here and for listening. I'm grateful that I've been able to connect with some of you on social media and learn from some of you, and just know that we're all going through this whole thing together. It's not simple. Emotions and your inner landscape can be really confusing sometimes. But knowing that there are other people who are just like me out there, who are struggling with a lot of the same things or find any of this relatable, it is very helpful for me to know that too. So please leave a comment, say hi, like, subscribe, do all the things. And oh yes, I will show you the banana bread. It doesn't look very good, but yeah. So I think that is all for this week, and I will see you next week. Have a good day. Bye. Okay, see, it's cooling right now. It doesn't look fantastic, but you know, what can you ask from a gluten-free piece of protein banana bread? Not much.